dugsiga boardingka iyo maalinlaha ah ee Amano boarding and day.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be on you, my dear students. Form 3 students, this is our fourth lesson geography period. So we were in chapter 2, climate and vegetation. Today we have two topics. We will continue from there. The first topic is mountain climates and local climate. These are the two topics that were left from the different climatic regions. So the mountain climate and local climate. Okay, let us go to the first one, mountain climate. You know, mountains, they have their own climate. They are different in terms of climatic characteristics from other different climatic regions we have discussed about. So that's why the mountainous regions are given a type of climate called a mountain climate. So this type of climate called mountain climate is experienced generally by high mountain ranges of the world, by high mountain ranges of the world. So now let us see the mountains in the world. As an example is Mount Kenya. The height is there also 5,199 meter, not kilometer. All of them are meter. Mount Ruwenzori, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Everest. So those one are just one individual mountains, the first four. And then we have a chain of mountains that have their own climates. Those chain of mountains, they are a lot in number and they are very serious. So the first one is found in Africa, it's called Atlas Mountains, and then the Rockies in North America. Then we have the Alps of Europe, and then the last we have Himalayas in Asia. So as an example of those mountains, those individual mountains here, and those chains of mountains, they have their own climates, and it's called mountain climate. So now what are the characteristics of this type of climate? What are the characteristics it has? The characteristics of mountain climate is, first, the temperature decreases with increase in altitude. It means whenever you go high on a mountain, the temperature drops. How many does it drop? They say for every 1 kilometer you go up. For every 1 kilometer that you go up, for example, 1 kilometer. If you go up 1 kilometer, they say the temperature will go down by 6.5. Some they say 6, but 6.5 is the correct one. So now, for every 1 kilometer that you go up, the temperature will drop by 6.5 degrees Celsius. So that's why the first characteristic is mountains are, their temperature is lower compared to the lowlands. Okay, what about the second characteristic is it has? The second one is temperature ranges from cool to cold. So some mountains, the temperature is cool. If the mountain is very high, like the one we were talking about before, now if the length is like 3 kilometer, 5 kilometer, it is going to be cold. And the type of rainfall in the mountain climate is called orographic rainfall, or in another words it's called what? It is called relief rainfall. That's also another term used, relief rainfall. So the rainfall that's experienced by the mountains are called orographic rainfall. How does it form and where does it form on the mountains? For example, on the mountains, the winds, they climb on the slopes. So when they climb and they go up, they are cooled. After they are cooled, finally they become a water droplets, then clouds, then they fall down as a rainfall. And that slope that the wind is going up is called windward. It's called windward. So the windward is the slope of the mountain that the wind, goes up from the mountain, and windward is the area that gets the rainfall mostly. And the side that, is not blown by the wind is called leeward. So this part doesn't get a lot of rainfall. So now the type of rainfall is the one called orographic rainfall. And the other characteristic of mountain climate is rainfall increases with altitude to 3,000 millimeter. So now as you go up the mountain by 3 kilometers, by 3,000 meters, the rainfall will increase, the rainfall. But by the time you reach 3,000 meters, it is going to decline if you continue going up. Because the air now has become more than 3 kilometers, the air has become what? The air has become cold and has poor capacity to hold moisture. So the air cannot hold moisture, and therefore rain will not be formed and will be less. So generally, we are talking about still the characteristics of mountain climate. So the other important characteristic is windward slopes are wetter than leeward slopes. We just talked about this one now. The windward slopes are those slopes that the wind blows from the mountain, which receives a lot of rainfall, so it is wetter than leeward slopes. And then what about the terms of atmospheric pressure? The atmospheric pressure increases, it decreases with increase in altitude. So as you go higher and higher, the atmospheric pressure, you know, is going to be less. It's going to be less. So atmospheric pressure will be decreasing as you go higher and higher and higher. As you go higher and higher and higher. Okay. What about, you know, in terms of the winds that blow here? Local winds are very common and blow up the slope during the day. During what? During the day. During the day, and down slope at night. So the local winds, they are very common here. In temperate regions, the slopes facing the equator are warmer than those facing the poles. So now the slopes that face the equator, they are always, you know, warm when we compare those slopes that are facing the poles, because the poles, they are very cold and the equator is warm. Sometimes also it's very hot. Okay. What about the local winds? We talked about, you know, mountain climate, what it is, examples of different individual climates, and at the same time, chains of mountains around the world and their characteristics. Now let us go into microclimate. What's microclimate? Microclimate, the word micro means, you know, very small, and macro means large. So now climate experienced within a small area, within a small area which is slightly different compared to the general climate of the area. So for example, a person is living in a forest or with his family. In that forest, it has its own distinct climate. So we can say the climate of the forest is a microclimate. For example, the climate of for example, a place like a lake, it can be also called a local or a microclimate. So now it occurs on the immediate surroundings and within some phenomenon on the Earth's surface. Microclimates can be found in the following areas. For example, within and around the forest is a very good example of a microclimate. So now within and around a forest, what is the characteristics? Experience a low temperature. Why? Because the trees are providing shade here. The trees, what are they doing? They provide shade. At the same time, they prevent solar insolation from reaching the ground. If an area is foresty, the temperature is always less compared to the rest of the surrounding area. Why? Because the trees in the forest, they are going to trap the heat to escape back to the atmosphere, and at the same time they will prevent some of the rays of the sun to reach the surface of the earth. So that's why it is less, and it also gets more rainfall. In terms of rainfall, the forests, they have a high rainfall due to the rate of evapotranspiration. The forests, they take part in the formation of rainfall, they attract rainfall. The forests, they release water vapor to the atmosphere through evaporation and transpiration. So what about another example of local climate? It includes urban areas. In the urban area, higher temperature is due to the greenhouse effect. You know, in the urban areas, what we have in pollution is there. So that's why the urban areas, they have they have their own distinct climate. Well, that's why, you know, even in Somaliland, Hargeisa is hotter than the rest. If you compare Hargeisa and, you know, other small, you know, city towns like Gabile, for example, you would be able to realize a difference in terms of temperature. For that reason, higher temperature, why? Due to the greenhouse effect. Even the developed countries, the bigger towns and the smaller ones in terms of temperature, they are less. Why? Because of the greenhouse effect. And the greenhouse effect explanation is there for you. You will read. And the third example of the last point of local climate is around man-made lakes. If a person is living around artificial lakes, they have their own distinct climate, because the lakes, they also experience and take part the climate in terms of changing it. So now an example is what? High convectional rainfall due to the high moisture content. They experience the type of rainfall called convectional rainfall, where the temperature extremely, heats the water in the lake, and then they evaporate, and finally rainfall is there. Around natural lakes experience land breezes, which causes early morning showers, and sea breezes, which lower temperatures during the hot season. So around man-made lakes, there is always a common of what's called land breeze and sea breezes. Land breeze and sea breezes. So the land breezes, it causes morning showers, and the sea breezes, it lowers the temperature during the hot season. So 3 examples of local climate or microclimate in a forest or around a forest, around a man-made lakes, and at the same time. Okay, so this is your homework. Your question is, you should be able to do, inshallah. That's for all. So take care.